Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a first look at the Puckipuppy Labrador here. It is a 750 watt hub drive e-bike. Looks like it's very well suited for commuting and light off-road use, and that's mostly what we'll be checking out on it. I wanted to let you know that I will be donating this bike to my local animal shelter as soon as I'm done with the review. They plan to have some sort of online auction or possibly a raffle towards the end of the year, so probably November, early December, something like that. So check with the website at Foothills Animal Shelter. They're in Golden, Colorado. They probably can't ship the bike, but if you're in the Colorado area, it certainly may be something that you want to check out and see if you can pick up a nice e-bike with just a couple of raffle tickets or something like that. The money that the shelter makes off of this bike will help to take care of animals like little minks here. And thanks, and we'll get started with the video.
All right, so this is the Puckipuppy Labrador. All the bike models from this particular company are named after dog breeds. This one's the Labrador, which is sort of their off-road step-over bike. We're gonna check over the box real quick. I highly recommend that you do this anytime you get any sort of e-bike. Look it over, see if you've got any damage anywhere. If you do, kind of note where it is so that once you pull the bike out of the box, you can check that corresponding spot and make sure that the bike itself isn't actually damaged. I've had a number of damaged bikes over the years, so it happens. Come up here to the top, just set it up right. You'll have a bunch of these big staples holding the flaps in. I highly recommend that you pull those rather than just pulling this flap open, because that'll leave you with a whole bunch of very sharp exposed staples on the other side, and that can not only cut you, but it can damage the bike as it comes out. This bike has made it halfway around the world at this point, and it's important that you get it out of the box without damaging it. So just be kind of a shame if you did. This lid was glued as well, and then we've also got more staples here. So just make sure to pull all these out just so that you don't hurt yourself with the bike. So this is what it looks like once you open up the top flap. You've got everything packed in foam. We can just pull out these various foam pieces, get those out of the way. Inside this box will be the typical stuff. You'll have your pedals, set of tools, your charger, a manual. Sometimes, yeah, we've got like a small air pump here. We'll throw in various accessories. We've got a light for the rear, and just the typical stuff that you get in the accessory box here. So we're just going to set this to the side for now, because this bike does weigh probably in the area of 75 pounds. We'll put it on the scale once we get out of here and see what it actually weighs. But the easiest way, now that you've got all these staples removed, you don't have anything that's going to scrape or do any damage to the bike, is just to lay this over wheel side up. This is your front wheel here. Keep that wheel side up, and we'll slide everything out. Here it is, just slid out of the box, and stood the box back up to get it out of the way. I'd suggest that you do this on carpet if you can. Nice grass is great. Just don't do it out on your concrete driveway. You will damage the paint and scratch things up if you're sliding this out. So the next thing you want to do is, you've got zip ties everywhere holding things together and holding all your padding in place. Now you've also got zip ties like here, which actually holds the cable for the motor to the rear triangle here. So you don't want to cut these, but anything that you see holding foam, go ahead and cut and get rid of. Okay, so your bike's laying on the right side. It still has a piece of foam on this side protecting your derailleur. You've removed the front wheel, which was on the top. And now let's grab the side stand, which was in the box with the bike. And we've gotten our tools out. Let's get our Allens out. Inside this box with our accessories is also a bag of Allen head bolts. And a couple of these are going to hold your side stand in place. Grab the two longest bolts out of your bag of bolts here, and then a number 5 Allen. And we'll go ahead and bolt on the side stand here. So it's got a groove on one side. That groove goes over this protrusion on the frame here. So you want it like that. Get these started by hand. With the side stand on, we're just going to stand the bike up. Go ahead and put this down just for the heck of it right now. And that will keep your bike upright while we put the bars on and then put the front wheel on. Turn your fork forward. The bridge here is in front, and then you'll notice that your stem is turned sideways here. That's for shipping, so we need to loosen these two bolts and turn this forward. Okay, so I removed the front cap here. Now we're just simply going to pick the bars up. You want to hold them in a way that the levers are forward like this. You can theoretically, if you didn't know what you were doing, you could put them on backwards like that. Don't do that. Levers out front, and then we just put our cap back on. We're not going to tighten anything down real tight yet, because once our front wheel's on, we're going to adjust the bars and get them in the position we want before we tighten everything. Next thing to do is come down and remove this. This is just for shipping. There's no function for it. It's just to brace the fork so that it doesn't get damaged during shipping. So we want to remove that and get rid of it. Okay, so that's off, and just throw it to the side for now. Okay, so your axle brace is out of the way. Now look in here and you'll notice that there's a red plastic piece on your front caliper, and you need to remove that. So you do that by pulling it straight out forward. And what that is a spacer that kept your brake pads from closing up all the way. So that gap that is now between those two pads is where your brake rotor is going to go. And this is being your rotor. Try not to handle this with bare hands, because the oil on your hands will affect your braking. If you do end up touching the brake rotor with your hands, they recommend using some rubbing alcohol and wiping the thing down. You can also use brake cleaner. Okay, so we don't have any washers, nuts, anything on the axles to get in the way. This is always a little bit hard to film because I'm trying to do this without blocking the view of the camera. But lift the front of your bike, put your front wheel in, put that rotor in the slot on the caliper, and just drop it down. And there you are with your front wheel in place. Now don't lift your bike up, because we have to put the washers and nuts on your front axle. Let's get the front wheel bolted on so that this can't possibly slip out of place. You'll notice that one of your washers has a tang on it here, and right above the axle there's a hole. If you put this over the axle, that little thing will drop into the hole there. And that's a safety feature so that your front wheel, even if this nut gets loosened up a bit, your front wheel won't fall out of the fork. With your front wheel all tightened up, go ahead and lean your bike over on the side stand a little bit, hold this, and spin your front wheel. And It's okay to hear a slight rubbing sound. That's normal, but you shouldn't have any significant rubbing. Everything sounds real good with that. So everything's in alignment. The next step is a sort of a personal thing. It's like what feels right to you as far as grips and wrist rotation for the levers here. So I like my brake levers right about there. I can rest my palms on these comfortably. So I'm going to leave it right there, and then I come back to the front where we had put these in, but we hadn't fully tightened them yet. And now I can tighten these up. All right, well, at this point, you've honestly got all the hard stuff over with. And now it's just bolting on some of the small pieces that need to be on here. First thing to do is to take your Allens completely out of your screen brackets here. Just back them all the way out, because we need to open these up. These are a nylon, so you're not going to break them. I wouldn't do this in extremely cold weather necessarily, but in normal summertime temperatures, these will flex with no issues whatsoever. So you can open those up, put them over, put your screen somewhere close to where you want it, and then you put your bolts back through and tighten things up. Again, these brackets are plastic. Well, they're a nylon, so don't over tighten. Just snug them down. You have a connection here and another here for your control. And sometimes you gotta feel around to where this feels like it drops into a groove. There's often like a little arrow there as well. But I normally just rotate it until you feel it drop in, and then you push them together and you're good. Up here on the front, we've got a little rubber piece, and this goes over here and pushes into there. So that's just a little trim piece for that. Before you do that, I already checked it, but make sure that that is tight as well. And then coming back down here, your keys are in the normal spot. With these e-bikes, you always find them attached to the front cables here, close to the bars. Just cut the zip tie here, and you've got the keys to remove your battery. Next, in your accessory box, you have your headlight. And that's just this little guy here with a reflector attached to the front. This is going to bolt to the brace here, and all you need to do is remove the bolt that's in place, install this, and retighten, and bring your wire up here. You'll see another yellow connection, and again, just kind of rotate it lightly until you feel it kind of drop in a slot, and then push them together, and you're good to go. Now I can tell that this seat is a little bit far forward to begin with. You've got calibrations here, and you've got your clamp right here. So hopefully you can see that. But I'm going to center this over the clamp, which is going to move this seat rearward just a little bit. And then I also want the top of this seat to be very horizontal or even slightly lower on the front. This actually doesn't look bad. Usually they come from the factory in a worse position than this. So I may leave that alone, but I do need to loosen this bolt right here and slide this seat rearward just a hair in the bracket. For the rear of the bike, we have this flashing light here, several functions. Looks good. 5 or 6 options on how you want that to flash, and it looks like it is a USB charge. It is, so that's great. I really like the USB charge lights. They seem to last a really long time. Sometimes I'll get many, many days of riding in between charging. And that's a nice size one as well. So pretty nice. If you're going to head out in the evenings or anytime, honestly, just for safety, not a bad thing to have that on. Okay, very simple. You've got a right and a left pedal, R and L. The right side here, we'll slide that over to the left. Right pedal has right hand threads, which are normal threads, which means you turn it to the right, thread in. There we go. And the other side has left hand threads, so you will turn it to the left to thread in. There is a 15 millimeter flat on the back side of the pedal here. And just use that and the 15 millimeter wrench provided, and you can tighten these right up. There you go. We're going to do something that isn't mandatory, but I highly recommend it because I can't tell you how many bikes I've gotten with cranks that weren't as tight as they should be. So an 8 millimeter Allen. Let's make sure that these cranks are super tight here. And actually that one was a little bit loose. So that could have caused a creaking sound when you start to ride. If you're getting sort of a creaky feel from the bottom as you pedal, it's very likely that it's your crank bolt. So let's go to the other side. Let's see what this looks like. And this side's better. That side's pretty tight, but the big ring side here definitely was a little bit loose. Let's check that one more time. I'm looking over the forks here, and I noticed that they're extremely sticky. You can, a lot of friction there on the stanchion tubes. So what I'm going to try first is put a little of this Fox Float fluid on them. This is marked brake fluid, but it's actually the Fox Float. And I'm going to squirt a little bit of this under the seal, and I'm going to put some on the tubes themselves and see if that frees things up a little bit. This stuff is great for getting rid of sticky forks. So what I'll do here is with a sharp pick, very carefully pry back the seal there, and then using this needle, we're going to squirt some of this underneath the seal to lubricate the sliders in here. Just be real careful not to actually poke the seal, do any damage. You just want to flex that out a little bit. While that did help the sticky fork thing a little bit, it's not a cure for it. So the next thing we're going to do is undo the nuts and washers here. I'm going to keep the one safety washer on the outside, but I'm going to move the other two washers to the inside of the fork. Sometimes if this fork pinches in a little bit, they will get real sticky. So if we can move the spacing of this fork a little bit wider, that may get rid of that stickiness. All right, well, having the washers on the inside here, which is giving me a wider spacing for the axle, is actually affecting it negatively. They're maybe even a little more sticky than they were. So we're going to remove one of the washers and see if what we're looking for is somewhere in between the two settings. So just to explain this a little better, I've got one washer on this side. I've got the safety washer on this side, on the outside. So one on the inside here, and then this side, I've got both washers on the outside and nothing on the inside. And that seems to be the formula for this fork. Whether that'll work on every one, I don't know, but if you were to play around with the washer spacing a bit on your fork, I think you can probably come up with the solution just like I did. Now things move much, much smoother. Nothing's sticking. And I would imagine as I use them a little bit, they're going to free up even a little bit more and be a little bit smoother than they are now. But between the Fox Float oil and that single washer on the right side, that seems to be a real good starting point. No more stickiness like what I had in the beginning. Okay, so I've looked over the bike and made sure everything is tight, and let me go over things with you that I've noticed. The bike itself has a really nice look to it. I'm also noticing that the welds on the frame are excellent, very nice quality. There's not anything about the frame that I don't like, and I really like the camo graphics on it. I'm not exactly sure how those are applied, but it's definitely not like a sticker or anything. It's some sort of process that puts this on as if it were paint, and it's really nice. Looks really good. I've got a little bit of oil on it from my oily hands here, but very, very nice look to the frame. I went online and looked to see what any complaints were about this bike, and number one complaint was sticky forks. So that I wanted to address that right off the bat, and I think I have found, at least for my bike, the combination that I need to free up the forks and give them nice action here. So the first thing was to use the Fox Float oil. That's a fork oil by Fox. That's super slippery, really nice stuff. And if you can get that down below the seal, that definitely smoothed them out a bit. The other thing that made all the difference with the binding on the fork was to not have a washer on the inside of the fork here, but do have a washer on the non-brake side on inside. And that seemed, I believe the forks were being pinched a little bit too much, causing binding with all the washers on the outside. If I had two washers on the inside, I think it was binding again because they were a hair too wide. But the single washer seems to take care of the problem for me, and they're actually feeling perfectly smooth now. No issues at all. So the more time I put on this and the more writing I do, I'm hoping that they really smooth out. These are a spring fork. They have a preload on this side, and they have a lockout, I believe, on this side. I think that's the only adjustment. So you can lock out the travel and not have anything, or you can use them as a spring fork. The rear shock is non-adjustable from what I can tell, although I have seen that some people say you can turn this housing, which does turn, and maybe lighten up the preload on the spring a little bit that way. I can't confirm that at this point. I will try to play around with that a little bit in the future. The pivot points, I went ahead and used the Fox Float on all of the pivot points. That includes all the linkage here, your linkage here and down below. And so that's the same thing on both sides. Make sure that those are oiled really well, even if you do nothing more than squirt a little motor oil into those areas. That seems to really smooth out the rear end of this. I'm not getting any creaking or anything. I initially was getting a little bit of creaking when I flexed the seat a lot, which is not unusual at all. And that was coming from here. but since I moved this seat back a hair and retightened it, I no longer get that creak. If you're getting a creaking as you pedal, it's often from the seat post into the frame as well. Make sure you're tight here, and go ahead and loosen. If it feels tight, we'll loosen it. Pull your seat all the way out. Make sure there's not any grit on your seat post. If some dust and dirt and grit have gotten in there, that'll definitely cause a creak in this area. And then the other thing is the creaking cranks. And I did find that not this side, but the big ring side was a quarter of a turn loose. So it definitely needed to be tightened. That would have caused a creak down the road, whether it started right away or after 200 miles. I'm not sure. But hopefully I averted that noise. So that should get rid of the #1 complaint on the interweb here about the noises from this bike. Geometry looks really good. You know, I always wish that I had better quality shocks, but this is essentially an entry-level full suspension bike. So I'm not expecting more than a spring fork and just a non-adjustable spring rear shock. So that's fine. The motor itself is branded Puckipuppy, but it looks to me like it's probably a Bafang rebranded. 180 millimeter rotor, Logan hydraulic brakes. The Logan brakes are awesome. I did notice in the kit here that they also give you an extra set of brake pads, so that's nice. Okay, at the back here we have a Tourney 7-speed derailleur. Our cassette is noticeably tiny. I'm counting it as a 14 by 28, which is a very high gear cassette. Fine for flatland and all of that, but I would much rather have something like a 1234, which is what this is as a minimum on here, just to help with its climbing ability because I'm in such a hilly area. Okay, let's come around here, pull the battery out. Got our key, which is the first lock. Got a safety lock here, and then the battery comes out. Battery here is a 48 volt, 20 amp hour lithium ion battery, and they supposedly use LG cells in this. Here, this is probably my only complaint to this point about the bike, is that it has a tiny 2 amp charger. So this is on a 20 amp hour battery. We're talking about 10 hours of charge time from 0 to full. That's a really long time because this is such a tiny charger. I do see that it has a fan built into one end, so you are going to hear a fan running while it's charging. But I'd like to see a 3 or a 4 amp so that we could get that charge time down to 6 or 7 hours. Have the bike suspended. We're weighing in at 77.3 pounds. That is 35.1 kilograms. The bike actually comes with a pretty nice manual. It is in color, and it will tell you most everything that you need to know. Our power button's at the top. We hold that down for a minute, and your screen will come on. The brightness looks good. The brightness is set on medium right now, and that is also adjustable. So we could turn it up the highest setting if we needed to, if you're having trouble seeing things. So you've got your miles per hour. It's showing eco mode. Eco mode, the bike will stay in up to, I believe, 15 miles an hour, and then it automatically switches into a higher power mode. So that's not anything that you can control. What you can control are your power assist levels. And by using the up and down button here, you can go from 0 to 5. So you've got 5 power assist levels. Up and down arrows That'll get you into the next screen. And that is brightness for the screen here. We'll see where we're at. Right now we're on level 2. Seems plenty bright to me, so I'm going to leave that there. Unit, that is kilometers or miles per hour. I'm setting miles per hour. Hold down the down button and the light button together, which are the 2 bottom buttons here. And then let go, and you'll see average speed, max speed, and your trip. And this will stay up for, I don't know, probably 20 seconds or so, and then it'll switch back to the normal screen. 3 buttons at once here. And this screen here will come up. This is your speed limit. So we're going to come back over to the, and we're going to click on the power button, choose speed limit. Right now from the factory it's set at 21. We're going to go back to the up button, and we're going to bump that up to maximum, which will be 61, I believe. Now that doesn't mean the bike's going to do that, it just means that it's going to give you maximum power output. So we're going to choose that. We'll go back to the power. Power assist gear, let's go down and take a look at that. That says gear 3 or gear 5. I'm not totally sure what that means, so we're just going to skip that, and we're going to go down to, we'll check voltage level. You can choose between 36 volt and 48. It is obviously a 48 volt battery, so we're going to leave it at that. Wheel diameter, we are at 29 inches, which is correct for an outer diameter of a 26-inch fat tire bike. All right, so we are out with the bike now. We're going to go out and do a little bit of trail riding here. I think that is probably what this bike is best suited for, other than an in-town commuter. I think it would be just fine for that. But these fat tires, full suspension, and all that, some light off-road use like these kind of Jeep trails that go through this particular park should be just right for it. The rattle that you'll occasionally hear will be from the side stand. Those side stands always rattle on rough ground. There's just no way around it because they bounce. But they are just so convenient to have on the bike that I rarely take them off. I usually just keep them on and put up with the noise. Okay, I've been riding on the dirt for at least a couple of miles, and the bike has done really well. Nice power. These kind of rolling hills that I've got here, it's working beautifully in pedal assist 2. I will bump it up to higher pedal assist when I get up onto the hill that's ahead of us here, and we'll see what kind of climbing ability it has. I don't expect this bike to ever be like a good climber in throttle only, but I do have hope for it that it will be a really good climber in the pedal assist levels. Sure feels like it will be so far. It's doing awesome. I try pedal assist 1. Seems to have a top speed of about 12 miles an hour. Pedal assist 2, and big noticeable difference. And seems to like about 19 miles an hour. Pedal assist 3, another big power gain. And this seems to top out about 25, 26 miles an hour. Let's call it 25. Pedal assist 4. Not quite as big a gain as the others, but not bad. Pedal assist 4, we are at 26, 27 miles an hour. Let's call it 27 is a top speed. And pedal assist 5. I can feel more power, but it's not the big boost like the first 3 levels. And we're doing 32 miles an hour as a cruising speed. Yeah. So it'll do a solid 32 miles an hour with easy pedaling. Suspension worked well. It wasn't sacked out at all under my weight. Just a little tiny bit of sag. And as you can see by the dirt rings here, my highest point of travel was up to there, and I put a ruler on this, and that is exactly at 100 millimeters of travel. So at one point I didn't hear any bottoming out or anything, but I hit a few things big enough to actually put it up to there. Most of my travel range was just right in here. So I really honestly don't have any complaints about the forks. You know, they're not high-end forks by any means, but they do their job. They work fine. You could get by with these just fine, and as an entry-level bike, actually they're pretty good. Okay, so here I am back from the first ride, and the bike was actually really impressive. Great power delivery on this bike. Real nice increments of power. No issues with any sort of creaking, funny noises. Everything was rock solid, and the bike handled nicely in the dirt. So I'm really looking forward to putting a bunch more miles on this to do some more extensive testing. But as a first ride out, very successful. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope this video helps you decide whether or not you want one of these bikes. So far, I'm giving it a big thumbs up. This thing is pretty awesome. So please tune in for more upcoming videos on this bike, and if you subscribe, those will come up automatically for you. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks.